So today we're going to talk about childhood abandonment issues. A lot of folks don't realize the impact of this until they're in therapy, really uncovering past experiences in their younger years. I'm Steph Stolzenbach, a clinical social worker for the past 16 years and clinical director at Charlie Health, overseeing our individual and family therapy. As adults, we often see things like insecurity, fear of rejection, difficulty building relationships, and wonder, where might this be coming from? Oftentimes, that's where we uncover these deep childhood abandonment issues. Today, we're going to talk about the signs of childhood abandonment issues, the impact that these have on relationships, and then lastly, the steps you can take to overcome them. So let's start by defining abandonment issues. Childhood abandonment issues often stem from emotional or physical neglect. Things like inconsistent caregiving, parents who are emotionally unavailable, or even the loss of a parent. It goes far beyond what we might kind of automatically consider. Things like incarceration of a parent or caregiver, divorce. These early childhood abandonment issues can often impact us into our adulthood. Difficulty trusting others, or even avoiding intimacy altogether with others in our life. These are really normal responses to what you've experienced, and recognizing them is the first step towards healing. It's also important to remember that abandonment issues can be triggered by life events. Things like a breakup or the loss of a loved one can also really exacerbate some of these feelings. So like I said earlier, some of the signs that we see are fear of rejection, difficulty trusting others. Oftentimes we might see attachment challenges. There might be low self-esteem that's impacting folks, and also a tendency to actually self-sabotage relationships. In my experience, clients often exhibit the signs in adulthood that really mirror their relationship and what they've experienced as younger people, right, in their own childhoods. So if someone is experiencing self-sabotage in relationships, it might be an indicator that as a young person, they experienced loss. And so now as adults, they're really in self-preservation mode, trying to protect themselves from that ever happening to them again. It's actually a really good segue because one of the most common areas that we see these signs show up is really in the domain of relationships. What's really common in clinical practice is to see one of 4 different ways that this might manifest itself in adulthood. So the first one that I often see is avoidance of intimacy. You might find yourself fearful of getting too close to partners or friends, and that's really self-preservation mode in action. You're trying to kind of protect your heart and avoid anyone hurting you again or leaving you again in your adult years. Something else that I often see is jealousy. There can be a fear of being left again. So sometimes you might find yourself exerting really controlling behaviors and efforts to not be left, and that can really strain the relationship with your partner. Issues around trust. When we think about being young and establishing a trusting sense of the world, that's often mimicked and learned by early attachments with our caregivers. So if there's been any sort of disruption there because of abandonment, as adults, we often kind of carry that with us into our relationships. We might be untrusting of partners and friends or folks at work, and that really stems from, again, those early childhood relationships, and it's almost a bit of a reenactment in adulthood. You might also find yourself creating distance or ending relationships prematurely. This really connects back to our earlier conversation around that self-sabotage. It's really, really common with, again, those early childhood abandonment issues. So with one of my clients, we really worked hard on navigating the relationship challenges that she was having. Through our work together, we uncovered that these were really linked to her early abandonment issues with both mom and dad. A lot of our work together, of course, focused on acknowledging feelings, challenging negative beliefs, and working on her self-esteem and her concept of who she was as a young woman in the world. What we also really focused on was exploring the attachment styles and attachment patterns that she had in her close relationships. So we looked at relationships with her friends, her colleagues at work, those in her graduate program, and began to see there's a theme here. There's a lot of insecurity, self-doubt, and again, that heavy hitter, that fear of rejection. So the work that we did together was really increasing awareness around what was causing these dynamics to unfold and what we wanted to do moving forward. Thinking about what does it mean to have a secure and stable and healthy relationship? How could she reframe her negative thoughts to approach every situation from a place that was more open-minded, less fearful, and more healthy? So from a treatment standpoint, this looked like a few different evidence-based interventions. Firstly was cognitive behavioral therapy, or what's commonly referred to as CBT. That's really where the work was connecting thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with my client. That's where we really leaned into some of those negative thoughts, catastrophic thinking when it came to relationships, and being able to kind of uncover that and work together towards more healthy and appropriate thought patterns. We also did a lot of work around trauma-focused therapies. As we know, that could take a lot of different shapes and forms. The work that I did with my client was really centered on CPT, cognitive processing therapy for PTSD, as well as somatic work. A lot of breath work, mindfulness, and movement. As I always like to say, move the body, free the mind. A lot of our trauma is stored in the body, and when we can kind of tap into it, we get a lot of symptom relief, and a lot of great healing can come from that. As I mentioned earlier, we definitely had those attachment-focused, relationally based conversations that were focused on early attachment styles and connections with my client and her parents. From there, we had a lot of deep conversations around the origins of what might be at play in her adult years. It's truly a brave journey to embark on when thinking about healing from abandonment issues. It's also one that's doable, and it's realistic whenever you're ready to put your step forward and think about healing yourself and having a really beautiful adulthood ahead. So this is something that you really want to have awareness around and uncover, and not push it down, which is so easy to do, or say, yeah, I'm good, that didn't really impact me. What I often see is when it's ignored, it will always rear its head in your closest relationships. So instead of being confused by dynamics that might seem unhealthy or scary, think about healing, looking at this with a trusted professional, and really getting the help that you deserve. Thanks so much for watching. If this resonates with you, please feel free to share comments below. If you're looking for more information or you're interested in virtual treatment, please check out the links in the description.